They are doing Kiss Curse affixes, but the basic thing is it will be awkward for DPS, but DPS pretty much just benefit, while it ends up just being harder for tanks and healers. That's the TLDR.
Yeah.
With a minor, like, also, who knows, with balance, it may not matter. But that being said, the ones that increase like magic damage or the haste of casters, that in a fortified week on a higher key, with, you know how that scales, that certainly seems like that could be quite a problem. So to quickly explain to everybody, what they've done is they've changed the affix thresholds. They were 2, 4, and 7. Now they are... Wait, no, sorry. They are now 2, 4, and 7. They were 2, 5, and 10, right? So those have changed. Affix is kicking in a little bit earlier. I have to imagine Blizzard feel a bit more headroom here, though, because obviously the difficulty changes. So a Mythic 0 is the equivalent of a Mythic plus 10 with no affixes and no timer. So this is all for basically M plus 10 gameplay. So still like a large improvement over where we were in the past. So they've done that, and yeah, they've basically gutted the middle tier of affixes. That means we've lost a few, and we're gaining some new ones. And the philosophy, though, I do like the philosophy where they've said, we want more focus in the dungeon, we want less nameplate clutter, we want less, like incorporeals and things in a dungeon. So I think that's something players are quite broadly for, and it's why I said Monkey Paw, because it's Kiss Curse, and they're making a blog post about a lot of things that I think a lot of people would, really like in principle. But of course, the Monkey's Paw curls when we actually get to the new affixes that have replaced the older ones, which are Reckless, Thorned, Attuned, and Focused. And basically, they're all based on whether an enemy has a mana bar or not, because that's essentially their only way to sort of say, is it a caster or not? So you've got Reckless and Thorned, which are both for non-boss melee combatants. For Reckless, ignores 20% armor with their attacks, so they do more damage, but their armor is reduced by 30%, and they take 10% increased arcane damage. So I suppose that's great if you're an arcane mage or you're doing a bunch of melee damage to them. But of course, for the tank, it does mean, tank and healer maybe will have to, try a little bit harder. There's then Thorned, which is essentially a bit of a spell reflect. Non-boss enemies without mana, so melee, inflict physical damage to their attackers when attacked, but take 10% increased holy and shadow damage. So here, it's basically just the healer will have to constantly top people up as they attack casters. Sorry, melee. Our final two then are Attuned and Focused. So in both cases, in the first one, Attuned, the curse is 20% increased magic damage from casters. For Focused, the curse is that those casters have also got 30% haste. So, and then the kisses. For Attuned, it is 10% extra nature damage, 30% increased bleed damage, and for Focused, it is 10% increased frost and fire damage. Probably nice if you're a frost fire mage. So
20% bonus damage, yay!
That's kind of what's going on there. Now, what is awkward is the overlap of what DPS specs will actually benefit on a week-to-week basis, because it turns out, if you're Destro, you're happy. Because of how,
Chaos Bolt, yeah. It's like, let's see. Chaos Bolt does extra damage. Chaos Bolt does extra damage. Chaos Bolt does extra damage. And OBS crashed.
Does that free up space to continue?
Cool. Okay, it didn't crash. We just ran out of disk space, so guess we'll not have the recording for clips. Whoops.
It's fine. It's fine. Things happen. Whatever.
That's fine.
So you can sort of see an interesting little situation there, where if you're maybe a DH or you are Destro Warlock,
DH should be the big one, right?
Yeah. They're just going to be the happy golden boys all the time. And I know that you put together. Is it in the document? You put together a spreadsheet that was great. It is not here.
I'll get it.
Okay, so I'll cover the dead air while Matt gets a spreadsheet out. So some specs will just benefit randomly one week, but there are specs that will benefit every single week because of how this stuff works. There is a bit of a concern amongst people of god comps, like basically that Destro Warlocks, assuming they are not punished, because then this brings up a really large balancing problem. So with Destro Warlock, if they are getting a, maybe an overlapping, actually, 2 overlapping damage bonuses on many days or on many weeks, how do you balance them? Because if they are perfectly balanced with everybody else in a target dummy, they'll be doing extremely well in Mythic Plus. If you tune them down so that they, in light of how many buffs they're getting from the affixes, do less well in Mythic Plus, then maybe they'll underperform in Raid. So it actually does, it does kind of cast up a pretty large problem for Blizz. The other thing then is there is no KISS for healers. There's no KISS for tanks. And that's kind of because tanking and healing is the gameplay of the dungeon, whereas, DPS is a bit of utility and you going through the dungeon. So the problem is, I have to imagine they think that any of the kisses that are there for a healer or a tank basically means they don't get their gameplay anymore, instead of a happy bonus, as they would probably see it.
No, it's just because the tanks and healers are too busy kissing each other because they're the only ones of any value, and the DPS are alone.
There we go.
And shit and suffering. Yes, so I see someone in the chat saying, don't they benefit from everything? And this is what I'm about to show you once I remember how this works. There we go. Hello. So how this works is if you benefit from one of them, you get a 1.
So
benefit from 2 of them, you get a 2.
Here.
Yeah, they can't see like it's. Yeah. It's
actually, if you maybe is that full screen? Because you could probably just drag it up.
I'll do this.
Oh my God! Look at that. We've moved.
There you go. Yeah.
Incredible.
So, this is very loose, right? There's some cases where, like, as an example, warrior here benefits from nature, because especially for fear and protection, because they can talent into Mountain Thin, which gives a shit ton of nature damage from Thunderclap, a lot of Thunderclap. So it's not a huge amount of stuff, but yes. So if you have a 1, you benefit from one of them, so you get 10% on some of your abilities. If you've a 2, you benefit from both. If red, none. And then this is weeks, so 3 weeks out of 4, Blood Decay does extra damage. But 0 weeks out of 4, they get double buffs. So you'll see the green. You'll see the very green nice stuff. So Frost has a tiny bit of shadow damage from Reaper Mark. I didn't include that because it's very small. I think it could be bigger, maybe bigger, but so don't take this as gospel, because it sort of depends on what percentage of damage you do. Like as an example, like Rogue here, Assassination Rogue gets Nature and Bleed because poisons, obviously. Big heavy poison damage, and Subtlety gets a decent amount of nature damage as well. Especially when they turn nature damage into shadow damage, stuff like that. But you'll see some people get off very well. Warrior's not bad. Evokers have a real good time here on on Focus Week, because they do a lot of Preservation gets Frost and Fire because they use Spell Frost. So Devastation, for example, gets Arcane and Frost for free, and Fire, so it kind of gets a little bit of that. Yeah, that should actually be 2. Whoops. So yeah, this is how rough it is. But Hunter gets away with it pretty well because Physical and Arcane, because they fire off a lot of Arcane damage with Arcane Shot fairly regularly, with Marksmanship and Survival doing that now as well. Survival is a lot of bleeds, Beastmaster's bleeds, and Nature as well, from Serpent Sting being pretty heavy there. You change one of the values. Yeah, I changed Devastation to 2 because I forgot. I just was. Oh my God! Holy shit! Oh my goodness! Computer, please behave. Thank you. But the thing I want to highlight is Demon Hunter.
Yeah.
It's
would you just like
buffed every week?
What, 20% more damage, 10% more damage, 30% more damage over here? Just you want a bunch of buffs?
Yeah,
sure.
Because so much of their damage
imagine the
is
impact of that many buffs.
Yeah. Now there's a really funny part of this as well, which is it's not just that they're doing chaos damage. They bring Chaos Brand, which increases magic damage up by 5%. So you bring a Demon Hunter as your melee.
Yeah.
And if you have a caster, they will do substantially more damage as well, which is very silly. And you've got some poor fuckers like Arcane Mage. Arcane Mage is like, well, guess I have one good week in me, and it's not even a great week.
Yeah.
Whoops. Fire and Frost get 2 because they can just go Frostfire and double dip like hell. As where they will is a different question, because like one of the things like Sun Fury, right? Frostfire lets him double dip in Frost and Fire. Sun Fury doesn't let Arcane dip into Fire because the Phoenix will cast Arcane spells mostly. And the Fire doesn't let them dip into Arcane because it casts Fire stuff mostly. And then Destruction Warlock gets just... They do so much of everything. Like, they do... Chaos Bolt does a lot of their work, but they also shatter damage and shatter damage from them. And then you look at Priest and you're like, you get 1 week as well because you just do shatter damage. Like, nice. Well done. And none of this is going to be super important, but it does mean, like, you're trying to combat the God comp by rotating. You've just made a new one.
You've got God comp every week.
You've just made sure everyone plays Demon Hunter.
Yeah.
Well done. Well done. Because it's all about the perception and all about who gets a slight bonus. Yeah. Because that's, you know...
It's a trickle-down effect. Because, like, you do look at a lot of this and think, will this realistically mean you can't do what you want to do in the game? No. Will it mean that players will be funky, shall we say, in pugs? Yeah, it will. We actually saw, because there's the weekly Mythic Plus data, whenever the God Comp came in Season 2, boom, numbers actually cratered. They cratered more than I expected. Yeah, because I was really surprised.
Because there's people sat there waiting for an Ogvoker instead of just going with whatever they find.
Yeah, pretty good way to decrease the number of runs you do.
Yeah, but it's okay because Augmentation only does nature damage, so it's actually fine. And it's not that... realistically, this should be... Because Augmentation can buff whatever damage it wants, this really should just be that, to be honest with you. Like, realistically, but that wouldn't be...
So it's kind of hard to know here what they should do. Because, I mean, looking at this... And it's weird, because, like, in your head, you could think maybe an affix gives some enemies a new ability, but maybe while they're, wheeling up to cast that ability, they take increased damage. And you put a bit of a game in it. Like, a mage character is going to go and do big explosion. Big explosion! They're going to cast Big Boom, Matt. And maybe while they're casting Big Boom, they take way more damage, but you don't want to let the cast off. Like, maybe that's a bit of a kiss curse that still is in the dungeon. I don't really know, but, like, I think just giving damage buffs based on magic, or, based on damage type, I don't really think that's the way to do it.
It's theoretically cool theming, but it's actually just arbitrary nonsense.
Does feel like arbitrary nonsense.
It's arbitrary nonsense. It's this week you're stronger. Why? Because fucking rotational balance, I guess. So I don't really know what. Like, I don't know how they would accomplish rotating balance outside of make your fucking game balanced, idiots. Like, obviously, I say that really like tongue in cheek because it's a hard thing to do.
Just normalize everyone's damage. Done. I'm not serious.
Honestly, there's a point where, and this is where I went on a whole fucking thing. Whole thing I went on.
Were you into the big think dimension?
Yeah.
Very mate.
In our Discord for like channel stuff, I was just like, remove talents.
Oh yes, you did. Yeah, you got doom pills and talents.
Which is funny because that was literally off the back of me being super happy about the 100 talents. I'm like, oh, these are really great. And I'm just like, I don't want to make any of this choice. This is fucking false choice. This is false agency you're giving me. You're not giving me real decisions. You're giving me a complicated math problem, and it's so complicated I'm going to look up the fucking answer. At least for, how a bunch of people are going to play the game. I'm like, I know what you're doing here, and fuck off with that.
Yeah, so it's like, what is actually... Yeah, where is the design space of a talent sort of working out? I guess when I think about that, it's end caps that are exciting. It's...
They've even moved away from end caps being exciting because getting to the end of a capstone was a problem. So they've changed that to majorly... Because remember, it used to be like, you get to the bottom, there's the ability. They've changed that so the ability is the ability is a gate or two higher, and then or row or two higher, a gate higher, and then you improve them. But then that just doubles down on we were talking about this before. It just doubles down on the doubling down aspect of, well, I don't want Call of the Wild unless I have the talent point below it.
I suppose what it reminds me of, if you had a combination of mop talents, but then maybe perks within the talents that augmented the talent, a bit like how in Diablo. You so in Diablo with an
yeah.
ability talent, you basically
Yeah.
you choose the ability and then it goes to a usually to a sort of a choice node, and you can take it in a different direction based on what way you want to sort of tinge or flavor that ability. Yeah, I totally get what you're saying. I think that the player expression within talents can be a really good thing, and I think in terms of utility, mobility, a bunch of the class fantasy stuff, I think talents are really good and positive. I think they're great for leveling.
They're also great for utility. The utility part is where I really quite like them.
I suppose the bit that what you're struggling with here is just balance in an MMO is hard, and then when we're throwing a bunch of damage multipliers on top of our dungeons, that seems weird. That being said, I do not believe these are going to make it onto live at all.
I can't imagine.
I just cannot imagine.
I can't imagine. I could see the curses surviving.
Oh yeah.
But I can't imagine the kisses surviving.
The curses are not the problem, actually.
No.
Because the curses are just,
Well, they also are because
they are.
Because it's just 1 week you bring a Vengeance Demon Hunter or don't play the fucking game, idiot.
Okay. With
the hasted one,
with the haste one, yes. What those curses are different flavors of an incoming damage profile, which could get uber horrible if it's casters and it's fortified, but whatever. But the thing that would be, I suppose, damaging to the social experience and the balance is the kiss. So how do you do the kiss in a way that is fair and that doesn't feel like it's only benefiting DPS while making healers' lives harder and tanks' lives harder because all they're getting is the curse?
You need to give it something that's utility focused. You need it to be say the haste one. It's like when you kill, you get 100% move speed till you pull the next pack.
Okay, something like that. Maybe those enemies drop a ball, some ability ball, an extra action button ball, and you can use that in the next pack. Maybe do some level of interactivity in that sense within a dungeon, rather than just Demon Hunters and Destro Locks forever!
Yeah,
which doesn't seem like it's it.
So literally prideful, yeah. I mean, that's the thing. The seasonal affixes were good at that.
Yeah.
But then they were complicated. And then they rotate dungeons instead of rotating seasonal affixes now.
But I mean, I'd almost say, complicated. Reduce the number of affixes overall, and maybe have some seasonal ones that are not as overarching, but theme them around the season. There's a way to do that isn't as heavy-handed as a meta-defining traditional seasonal affix, but that probably isn't just to borrow an older term from our stream, a dick in your salad. Like storming. Storming was a great example of a dick in your salad, where it's like, what's this achieving? I'm just a bit miffed. That was the thing with storming, because it's not like storming was hard, and it probably didn't wipe your group. It was just mildly frustrating. And of course, the good news is storming is gone. Now bolstering and oh no, it's not called bulging. What's it called?
Bulging. Bulging is your new affix.
Bursting. Bolstering and bursting.
And sanguine.
Oh,
why?
not sanguine. Not like
why
this. Not like this.
Are you so stubborn? Why are you so stubborn, you video game designers? But yeah, I don't get it. I don't get why sanguine's there. I get why it's there, but I don't get why it's there. I look at it and I go, you've created the Typhoon affix. You've created the Thunderstorm affix. The High Explosive Trap affix. Why does it hail enemies? Why isn't it a stacking damage buff? Just do that. Sanguine is a stacking damage buff. There you go.
Yeah.
It's still a tank problem, but now it's not one that makes everyone in the group want to kill each other. Yeah, I actually, I don't know what to do with affixes. I really, okay, I'm very radicalized.
Oh!
I'm very radicalized.
Let's go.
And I would be one of the first people to go, throw talents in the bin, design your classes like actual designers. It's obviously very rude and not true. Designing talents is obscenely complicated and difficult, and I can't believe they've done such a good job with it. But like they remove talents, remove affixes, and just make your game fucking good. Like, just make your game simple and good. Like,
I'm just imagining that. You know the way, like, the title of the TV show, The Good Doctor? I'm imagining, like, Matt Lakin starring Matt Lakin in The Good Schizo. It's like you go to say the, like, really horrible thing, like, these fucking designers can't do it. But, you know, in fairness, they have done a really good job, and it was a hard task. But I get it. It's inherently, like... it's something inherent. And we have seen so many teams of designers across so many action RPGs, shooter RPGs, RPGs, and so many things try to do talents or perks or whatever. And it does feel like nobody's really came to the, like, you know, there's lots of good, but I don't, you know, there may be a gold standard. Like, yeah, it's inherently hard. How do you do something that is about player expression, but then has got to make contact with cold hard numbers and game balance? That's, I guess, the struggle at the heart of all of this. And there's a bit in your head that I suppose is just rip the Band-Aid off, as it is called in other places, not here. Rip the Band-Aid off and do no talents like Final Fantasy XIV, which doesn't have talents.
And still has job problems up the fucking wazoo.
Still has job problems.
Hello, we are we're changing Black Mage. Black Mages did not like this.
Yep, I know that they changed something that I've forgotten, probably can't pronounce, from the Samurai like 2 years ago, and everyone. That's it. Is everyone still mad?
Everyone's still people mad? Are mad. They're disappointed now. They're like,
Has Dawntrail fixed it, or is it so over?
Dawntrail
more like Sleepwalk
job.
Sorry, that was mean.
Yeah, Dawntrail's job philosophy so far is very explicitly, we have not rocked the boat because we're rocking all the other boats, and we'll see how those work.
They're rocking all the other boats?
Yeah,
okay.
Which is them.
I think that's a game that certainly could benefit from some boat rocking.
They're doing a large amount of changing how dungeon and raid bosses feel mechanically, playing with that more.
Oh.
And then they said around 7.2 they plan on changing job design to match that philosophy if necessary. See how it goes. Something along those lines anyway. But yes.
All right, that's kind of fascinating.
So removing talents wouldn't make job or class design suddenly easy, that's for sure. That's for sure. And it would remove a lot of what people like about it. So I wouldn't ever actually say give me no talents. But I want to peek into the alternate universe. Was that a translation error today? Damn. Whatever. Oh, God. Here I was hopeful, but it's fine.
Okay. Well, interesting. So we've talked about the Mythic Plus situation. I do not believe that this will ship. I will say that I like the willingness to do a Kiss Curse, and I like a lot of the philosophy they talked about shifting the source of challenge to the dungeon. So that stuff, you know, that does get my thumb up. I maybe think a different philosophical approach with the kisses. I think you talking about the speed boost for running, I mean, that's basic player traversal. People find that to be fun. If maybe, you know, you're special, you know, they could probably do a thing for each affix where they just manually go through the dungeon and flag, you know, like with those affixes, but it impacts this melee guy, this range guy, that melee guy. And maybe when you kill those enemies, it drops a spear or a shield or something you can throw at an enemy to stun a pack or do more damage.
See, those are all dungeon mechanics. Those are in like Necrotic Wake, the chains are in Althara, stuff like that. That's all in the dungeon. So there's no room for that in affixes on top, realistically, because then you just have overlaps and double dipping and that stuff.
Because the overlaps are the problem.
So they already all have that stuff, which then makes you go.
But you could have
affixes, throw them away.
Yeah.
Throw them the fuck away, please.
Tricky. You could maybe. Okay, so what was in my head though, right? Because we're going to theme this. Maybe let's say it's a void themed, whatever, a void themed.
Wow, we won't get tired of this for the next two expansions.
So let's say it's a void themed season.
Sorry, Midnight will actually be all light themed.
Oh yeah. So let's just say it's a void themed season or a Xalatath void themed season. Because, if we were following prior rules, we would be doing, a Razageth themed season with Thundering. So in this case, a Ansurek themed season. But I don't really know if anybody just wants spider affixes.
Spider eggs. Every time you kill a mob, will a spider jump out.
Just get, oh no.
Not spider mobs, just spider jump out your screen. Which is horrifying, and then you turn on arachnophobia mode, you're like, it's crabs now.
Brilliant. So maybe, if it's a void thing, there's a void buff after killing that sort of buffed enemy. A void item that is different, that drops off that sort of enemy.
Can I just play a dungeon?
At which point you then just think, remove the affix. You
play
remove
dungeon.
that layer of affixes, because guess what? The difficulty goes up X% from affix to affix anyway, and you've got Tyrannical and Fortified to give you two very distinctly different flavors. They also did say, by the way, that they could have a look at Tyrannical and Fortified.
Yeah, look at them.
They said it somewhere.
Look at them through a fucking sniper scope and pull the trigger, mate. Which I actually don't really agree with. I think Tyrannical and Fortified are fine.
Yeah, I think they're kind of fine
I
too.
think they're fine. The only reason I think they're fine is because they work with the the dungeon feels different every other week. Which to me feels like, why are you making it feel different?
Yeah.
Make it feel the same, because then it's fun, because it's the same dungeon. I like doing the dungeon that's like, I don't even like repeating content that much. But I'd rather repeat content that's the same content instead of content that's fucking, it's wibbly wobbly week and the dungeon's upside down. Like, I'd rather just do the dungeon again. Like,
Wibbly wobbly week.
it's like, we have put fucking
Now.
party hats on the enemies. Let's go. I'm like, no, can I just...
That can be our new mop remix. Yeah. No, it's a funky wee thing. We'll have to see what they do. Big picture, I think I like what they're thinking of. This one just didn't hit the mark.
Just fucking dropkick affixes the fuck. Just get rid of them to hell. Get rid of them. No one likes them.
So yeah.
The fucking
Actually, do you know what-
games.
do you know
The
what I was-
game's complicated enough.
What I was thinking about there. So number one, yeah, if you could just remove sanguine and bolstering and bursting and of course bulging, our new affix, if you could just remove all of those, you would have more design space on the bosses. And, maybe you can have they've got the mythic abilities. Well, what if you have no affixes, but instead, at mythic +7,
They just killed you.
their final,
life.
there are more abilities in the dungeons. Just one little level more. As you go from normal to heroic to mythic in a raiding context, you do have some more mechanics to deal with.
I've got it.
Oh dear.
Got it. Remember how everyone hated Razageth Sundering? Imagine that, but good.
Razageth and Sundering?
Thundering.
Thundering sucked.
Imagine Thundering, but good.
No, I can't.
Then you have a brain issue, I'm sorry to say.
Yes.
So what I'm actually thinking is you combine the idea of give bosses extra shit, but make it seasonal. So you go and design it. So you're chilling. Don't know why you're in Caesar Bralis. Don't know how that makes any sense, right? Yeah, but that's not a one-size-fits-all solve. It requires them to put work into it. Please be quiet. I know. I know what I'm about to say is do more work. Do more design work, which is the problem. Stop being lazy and
I said the lazy devs! The lazy devs have not done it again.
Yeah,
Grr.
yeah. Listen, if you put... It's the equivalent of someone... It's trying to fix a car to drive down the road when you could walk it.
You still have a broken car though, and you should get it fixed.
That's true.
I'm sorry to ruin your analogy.
But yeah,
I understand. I understand your thing. It's like, yeah. No, I get it.
You're spending $1 billion to try and solve this systematically, when you could just solve it by being good, which is a very rude way to say it. But I don't mean that. I mean things like you're in Siege of Brass and you're fighting. What's the name of the last fucking boss? The thing in the water pit or whatever. And you just hear Xalatath or Zekfir do some cackling. and then just some like timed with the boss mechanics. So not just fuck you, I said so. Just some shit comes in. Just here's some void. Like here's a void portal that pulls you towards the danger zone, and that's the affix. It like teleports you into the danger zone and routes you there, and you have to get out. And it's like really narrow timing, something a little bit like that, where it's just here's a flavorful version of we have made this boss harder after +4/+5.
Yeah.
We have not put a bajillion hours of work into it. It's something simple, but it is something that is like new and harder. And you see it and you go, oh, fuck, that's new. And your brain goes, wee, for
as
a
long
second.
as we don't have, remember Quaking? Yeah, it was Quaking on the Nerzul dungeon.
It was quaking on half the fucking game.
And also half the game, where
Yeah.
Quaking basically meant that the bosses didn't work.
Yeah, it's like
Like
oh,
the
yeah.
design was broken because
Yeah.
of Quaking, so they had
Please.
to then hotfix in, like, basically edge case.
Yeah, please stack. Quaking says no. Like that was a literal thing. So I imagine there's a world where they could like kind of make it simple like that. But the problem is they want they want
They wanted an overall
weekly
systemic
variation as
weekly,
well.
yeah.
the weekly variation is
So,
the problem.
Big
I
picture,
guess.
I think it is what it is. We will have to see. They will almost certainly respond to this feedback because it has been essentially unanimous.